Who I am? I'm guessing a bunch of you have no idea who I am. I see a Nerdtacular shirt, so I know that guy knows us. So I see one there too. 2010 represent. And I see a few old friends, people I know, but a lot of you are strangers. So let me introduce myself. My name is Scott Johnson. I am the founder of the Frogpants Studios. It is a combination of artwork and podcasting and internet new media, mostly podcasting. And that's kind of where I come from. I felt like there was more to that than I just said. Is there more to that?
Podcasting, cartoonist, sous chef.
Sous chef, right. Oh, and I hosted another big event every year, usually in the summer, called Nerdtacular. Many of you have been, some of you I know. Similar to this, except it's all sort of focused on our network. I host shows like, any World of Warcraft players here? Big time players? All right. I host a show called The Instance, which is a World of Warcraft show that is relatively popular over these years. And I run a morning show with who I'm about to introduce in a second, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Stuff about movies, stuff about iOS apps for your iPhone. And we'll get more into all that here in a minute, but that's who I am. Sitting to my right is Brian Ibbott. He's the host of Coverville, also on the Frogpants Network. But that show started long before I did. Well, the Gears of War people are loud, aren't they?
They really are. No, they're giving away another laptop.
Oh, are they? Okay. The Gears of War kids are like, yeah.
They're screaming.
If you play on Xbox Live, you get just a little piece of that. Anyway, Brian Ibbott hosts Coverville. It's a show about cover songs. It's one of the first music podcasts ever. Continues to be one of the best. And he and I host a morning show together, as well as a weekly podcast about bad movies we find on Netflix called Film Sack. So Brian Ibbott, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott Johnson.
The way we're going to do this today, the goal of today, in the short time we have with each other, is to talk about what it takes to build strong gaming communities, and how that kind of permeates out to others. But how I went from a starry-eyed kid when I was 10 or 11 years old, and I wanted to be a cartoonist and a radio announcer, to actually being able to do those things full-time as an adult, in a world that changed very much the way I got to actually do those things. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about what it takes to run a 7,000-person guild in World of Warcraft, the world's largest guild, and how that all came to be as well. But the way we're going to do it is I'm going to throw it to Brian Ibbott here, who is going to ask questions of me. I'll answer them the best way I can. And at the end of all this, we'll have some Q&A, some time for questions and answers. And as a bonus, if you get up and do a Q that I can A, we're going to give you a free Nerdtacular t-shirt. We have a bunch of those left over from the June event, and we're giving those away today. After all this, we're going to be sitting at a table back there signing some stuff as well. So if you're interested, I got some prints with me. I'm giving away mouse mats and keychains, a bunch of free stuff. So free swag is never a bad thing, right? All right.
Excellent.
So Brian Ibbott, over to you, sir. What do you got?
Thank you. All right. So first off, the interactive portion of the show. How many of you guys have a blog? Show of hands. Very good. How many of you guys have a podcast? Okay, good. YouTube channel? Okay, cool. How many of you people are in line to get something signed from the Infinity Blade, folks? They are right there.
These guys.
So whatever your creation, one of your goals is to build a fan base, obviously. You want to have people following your blog, watching your videos on your YouTube channel, listening to your podcast, and it's all those eyes and ears coming from different directions. And as they find other things to entertain them, you might start to lose them a little bit. So one of your goals, while you have your fans and while you have your followers and while you have your friends, is to build a community. And not only do you want your fans to keep following your work, you want them to find enough stuff there to engage them, turn them into like a kind of a self-living beast of their own, and keep them interacting with you. So before we get into Frogpants, before we get into cartooning and illustration, we're at a gaming conference here, so let's talk video games. What was the very first video game that you loved?
That I loved. Not the first one I played, but the first one I loved.
The first one you loved.
Infinity Blade 2. That's my favorite. No. So the first video game I really fell in love with was during a time that my dad owned and ran arcades up and down the Salt Lake Valley. Actually, all through Utah. We had stuff everywhere, but he brought home a game from Japan called Crazy Climber. Does that ring a bell with anybody? Does it? Okay. You're a dude that climbs this building, and a bird would fly by and drop eggs and other things on you.
Poop on your head, yes.
Yeah. Guys would open windows, throw pots out. Your goal was to avoid that. It had 2 sticks on the front of it, this way on the stand-up, this way on the cocktail. And I loved that game, and I won a Timex digital watch once by getting the high score at an arcade contest. And I loved that video game. Oh. There's some sort of tournament happening.
The Q&A portion will happen at the end.
So anyway, I loved that game, and it wasn't the first game I played, but I loved it, and it kind of led to a lot of this stuff, which I know we're going to talk about. But my dad and our involvement in arcades was a big deal for me.
Well, you like tell me about how that affected you. You not only played it, at home, but it also became kind of part of your school.
Oh yeah. So I don't know how many of you, like me, grew up. I was kind of an awkward, dorky kid. Anyone feel like that sometimes? Represent. So we don't call it Nerdtacular for nothing.
We're at a show called Geeks. You can.
Right. And I didn't. Today's a great time to be alive, actually, because there are a lot of your people with you at school. I didn't have them, so it was kind of odd. But I became really popular really fast the minute all my friends found out that I had like a battle zone and a missile command and Pac-Man and all this stuff in my basement, and we could go in there and just flick the free credits and Bob's your uncle. I had all the friends I wanted, and it was a little fleeting and a little hollow, but I was willing to take whatever I could get.
Yeah.
But it had a big impact on my childhood socially in a way that I didn't expect. And I got hooked. I mean, video games became kind of part of the fiber of who I was and remain today. My 11-year-old sitting up front here, he loves himself a good video game. And I see a lot of me in him, but it's really great to be able to share that with him and have the same passion and even beat him occasionally, which is nice.
Video games even became like a report. Like you did a report at school.
I did on Crazy Climber.
On Crazy Climber?
Yeah, so check out this nerd action. When I was in 7th grade, I went to Union Middle, I guess it was. They're still in existence, sadly. Anyway, I was asked to do a talk or a oral report in class, and we could come up with any topic we wanted. And all I cared about at that time were video games, so I did an entire class presentation on the merits of Crazy Climber. And I remember the class loving it, kids laughing and talking and thinking that was great. And I remember my teacher just sort of going, giving me the face.
Right.
So that didn't go well. But I recorded it. I have it on tape. I wish I could play it here today, but I recorded this for some reason and have that at home to always remember my geeky 7th grade report on Crazy Climber.
It's cool that you weren't afraid to kind of let your geek flag fly there, right?
Yeah. Let your geek flag fly, folks. Even if you're old like me now.
Now, we talked a little bit about your dad and how he had brought the arcade cabinets home. It wasn't just kind of managing and taking these video games to laundromats and arcades and stuff. He actually came up with an idea for a game.
He did. It's all over the map. Anyone remember 1985's video game crash? That ring a bell to any old timers here? Well, it was pretty bad. My dad lost his shirt on that deal, but the arcade business kind of crashed. But right before all that happened, he had an idea for a self-contained, like a large arcade cabinet that you could sit down in, have doors shut, and as you would play it, it would roll and move. Now you're all saying to yourselves, well, I've seen that 100 times in arcades. Well, now you do. But at the time, that didn't exist. They were all stand-up, straight-up, normal, boring machines. And he had this great idea for hydraulics and how it would run and what kind of power you would need. And then the game business crashed. He had no money. He could never see it through. 2 years later, Sega's got Afterburner and that one where the dude ran real fast. I can't remember the name.
Not talking track and field, are you?
What? Nope. Something else. Anyway, you ran and you shot stuff and you jumped. You had a jetpack. Anyway, you know what? What? No, I don't know what it was. Anyway, so they came and stole his idea, dang it. Sega. Look what it got them, where they got them.
You're looking at them from behind, right?
Yeah, you're following them from behind. I can't.
Yeah.
Space Harrier.
Space
just
Harrier,
hit. It just happened.
Yes,
anyway, and that was it was sad because he had these brilliant ideas and stuff, but it really influenced me to see that creativity applied to what up to that point was just fun, right? Put a quarter in, waste your money, waste your time, have a good time, walk away. And he was able to say, no, you can actually build business around this. You can do more. And believe it or not, I believe that's the spirit that leads to much of what I've done. But it reminds me of the StarCraft guy over here, Colin Games.
Yeah.
He's found a cottage industry because of a video game.
Right.
And I can't understate that. So I feel like some of what we'll talk about is that, and how you can, how video games can turn you as a personal content creator into something more than just someone who just passively plays the game.
Yeah, it's actually, it's an important point is the people who are making money and making a living with regard to video games aren't necessarily people producing them. I mean, and we'll talk a little bit about the podcasting later, because that actually was a disconnected point that just led me into that.
Right.
Okay, so we talked about the arcade stuff. Let's move on to the home stuff. Now, you've had just about every console ever.
Yeah, this will date me a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so I had an Atari 2600. That was my first console. I had, and of course, an NES, a Super NES, a Genesis, all that stuff. But I had some weird stuff, too. I had 3 versions of the Sega CD. And that thing kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't that great. We thought it was. Whatever, Sewer Shark and all those dumb games. But I had the one where you put it underneath, and then I had the one that went to the side. You remember all this. And I had the one that was the CDX. It was a Genesis and a Sega CD in like a Walkman form.
Oh, right.
And it was $475. And I put it on my credit card, and
it's funny you remember the
I
price
got nothing to show for that mistake.
Because, I mean, I could ask you how much the NES cost when it first came out.
Yeah, that was $199, I believe.
You do remember? Okay,
yeah,
I was
remember.
wondering.
I think so. I think that's right. But I played them all, had them all, loved them all. I wish I'd have held on to them all. I think they all would be worth a little bit of money. But I love the current generation of consoles. And again, as the technology has improved in gaming, and there was always this, like, you knew that games were going to eventually do what they're doing today. You just didn't know how long it would take. So when I'm playing combat on my Atari, I thought, one day I'll be in a tank, and it'll look like a real world. We've long been doing that. And it just sparks so much creativity and so much connected creativity, not just from the makers of the games, but events like this don't exist without this stuff, right?
Right, exactly. And
right.
Perfect way to lead into this, because so all these kind of disconnected but related things, all these these connections that you had with video games all your life, and how it kind of all led to this. So kind of your first foray into radio and an audience was the Unreal Tournament, the infiltration radio.
So
to a video game audience, I should say.
If anybody played the original Unreal Tournament in 1999, you'll know that it is the single greatest first-person shooter arena-style multiplayer game ever made. And I still like to play it. And the newer ones are okay, but the original really is where it's at. And that's about the time the internet started kind of blowing up as this thing that not just for me to consume, but for me to make stuff, right? Now, this comic you're looking at here, it's kind of sad, because this is my Steve Jobs, sad day he died comic. That's not normally what I do on the comic site. But it was kind of coming to a head. The podcasting thing was in my heart and would come out one day. But really, I was first and foremost a cartoonist and an artist, and I needed a way to get my work out there. I spent years and years getting rejected by syndications, because that's how we used to do it, right? You'd send in your comics to some syndication. They'd say, sorry, thanks, but no thanks. And you just keep doing that. And if you ever got lucky, it was like this giant group of people trying to get into this little tiny gateway, and like one person holds the key to the gateway. And that's how things were in broadcasting, in media, in publishing, in printing, all that. The internet comes along, it starts to become this thing in the late 90s that would allow me or others to really take it and make it so that we control everything. We don't have editors to go through, we don't have to deal with stuff like that. Instead, we have complete creative control. And in '99, when that game came out, I got wind of this mod called Infiltration. It was like a realistic mod. By the way, every time you play a shooter now that has iron sights aiming, you have Infiltration to thank for it. They were the first ones to ever do that. And it wasn't even a very good mod, but they had some great ideas. It's not, first isn't best. Sometimes just, doing it right is best. And someone's come along since and done it right. But it gave me an opportunity to start doing comics online. I started with a comic called Real Tunes, which was all about realistic shooters. And I put that up every week, and GameSpy and a few other sites picked it up. And then I decided I wanted to do a radio show about it. I called it Infiltration Radio. All we had were MP3s. That was all still sort of new. These are still the Napster days, if you remember those. And really rudimentary ways of controlling it. My microphone sucked. Everything was lame. But I did it, and I did it every single week, and it got a small, burgeoning audience.
You would record them and then just put the MP3s on your site?
Just put an MP3 on the site and let people right-click it and download it. This is before iPods and iTunes and all that.
Catching and
now you just download it and listen to it on the fly while you're jogging. But those days were very different. And it had a following as much as the game had a following. But I knew there was more to do in that space. I knew I wasn't going to stop there, that this was just going to keep growing, and I had to grow with it. And it really was right around 2003. I mean, a lot happened in between, but between 03 and 04, 05, early 05, things really took off in that way. RSS, iTunes, iPods, an interest in, in radio that isn't overproduced. And it put me on the path to do what we're doing now. So I started with this little 200-person audience, and now we're looking at right around 300,000 weekly listeners to the shows on the network, which I'm really proud of. But it took 10 years to get there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it just, it gets better and bigger every year. We add new shows all the time. But it's fun to look back and go, man, my roots were in that dumb game with that crappy MP3, with that microphone I borrowed from my uncle.
But it was MP3 blogs before podcasting. It was it was the thing that led to what you're doing today. And the people who were listening to that kind of followed you through into Extra Life Radio. Are there any former listeners to Extra Life Radio in here?
Any ELR fans? Oh wow,
excellent,
great. We all miss that show, of course.
Yes,
don't we?
I do. Yeah.
That show went for 5 years. I'm proud of its run. It was 234 episodes and a good, strong run. The shows we're doing now, I have no idea what their shelf life is, but we'll see. And the morning show's doing really well, and the Instance continues. 6 years later, the Instance is still a juggernaut in that space, and I'm really proud of that. But I'm more proud. I don't want to transition too soon, so tell me if I am. But I'm really proud of how. So all of this starts. Here's the part. If you're really trying to do your own content online, I think this is the important thing. If I've learned anything, I could just be a dope up here talking to nobody. I mean, you guys, you may be looking at me going, whatever. I just need a place to sit until things calm down at PC laptops or whatever.
That's right. Until he gets a chance to go in the Gears of War finals.
But there was a point when I was doing this in late 04, 05 when I started doing what I call the spaghetti routine, which is I throw something at the wall and see if it sticks. And if it sticks, I stick with it, and if it doesn't, I move on. And the World of Warcraft show was simply me doing this. I went out on iTunes in early January 06, and I said, what shows exist to support this? What fan podcasts are that I can listen to because I like the game and I play it a lot? And it was all garbage. No offense to any of them. None of them are around anymore. So,
well, somebody might be here in the audience.
Yeah, any WoW podcasters out there, I'm not talking about you, but it wasn't very good, and it just wasn't my style. Maybe it's good for some, but it wasn't good for me. Right. So I said, I know, I'll make one. And I honestly had no expectation for the show. Up till then, ELR was getting about 3,000 listeners a week, no big deal. And I thought, we'll just try this. It'll be more for me in the game than it will be for anything else. Within 2 days, we hit 8,000 downloads. By the end of the week, iTunes had us featured on the front page. And by the next week, we were doing 20,000 downloads per week. Totally caught off guard. But it taught me something. Sometimes your instincts are all you need. It's all you need. Don't listen to other people. Don't listen to trolls. I remember people saying, nobody wants a World of Warcraft podcast. Why would you waste your time? Right. And it would have been easy for me to go, he's right. Let's not waste our time with this. But I said, you know what? I'm going to go with my gut with this. I'm going to ignore the trolls. Let them be trolls. That's what they do. Let me be me, and I'll do what I want to do. And the show and where it's gone and the opportunities that is open for us. I mean, our guild, 7,000 people strong guild, active players, mind you. We kick everybody out that hasn't logged down for 30 days, so we're always dumping people. 7,000 active players in World of Warcraft play in our guild on our server, and it is one of the most fantastic groups of people I've ever had the opportunity to be with. They are smart, they're caring, they're family-oriented. They're from all walks of life. We've got lawyers and truck drivers and doctors. I mean, it's crazy, the breadth of people, and there's always somebody to play with. Honestly, World of Warcraft today is nothing to me without this extended family of 7,000 people. And it wouldn't have happened without the show, without that connecting to other people, having us connect the dots and saying, all right, here's the next place to take it. You know, I owe that show so much for opportunities and things that have come since. And when I go to BlizzCon next weekend, and if any of you are going to BlizzCon, I'll see you there. I can't wait to meet some of those fans. We have a big guild hall, and the guild's all going to have a big meetup. Hundreds of us will be there, just because of a dumb old podcast. So your instincts are important, and I don't. None of that happened without my instincts.
Right.
And I don't even think I have that good instincts. I just think it's
You have good instincts.
everyone's got their instincts, and you should go with them because they're often right.
I think the podcasting, the cartooning space, the creative space that you've done is a testament to the fact that you've got good instincts.
Well, yeah, that's what they tell me, but I don't know.
And a strong community, which is a perfect lead-in.
Oh, good.
So, all right.
Transition.
Right. So we've got the listeners, we've got the people who come to your blog and see your artwork.
Right.
And then we've got this guild. How does something like this evolve into a community? How does it turn, what is it that takes it from point A to point B, from just being people who are all focused on the content that you're putting out,
Right.
and then they start to evolve into doing things with each other and in support of you?
All right, I'll give you an example. This is a live, unrehearsed example of how this can work. I don't know what this will lead to, but maybe something. Got word that there is a guy here today named Keith. He's probably in the audience. Keith, are you out there? There he is. I got word that Keith Barrowman is having and celebrating a birthday today. Then it's not you. It's this Keith.
This Keith, okay.
His wife set this up, wanted you to know that she wishes you a happy birthday. Now, why is that an example? By the way, happy birthday, for real. I'm not just using you as an example, but it works out pretty good. Yeah.
We got for a present, we got you some extra redness in your cheeks. So.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. And he's an instance listener, so he's always good in my book. But this is an example of what I mean. The community that is sprung up around the Frogpants shows, around the Instance, around the Morning Stream, around these other shows, and around the comics and everything else, it's all very cross-pollinated. Our forum users, I mean, I could go on, the guild, whatever. The one common thing is they are all really insightful, talented human beings. They're also real flesh and blood people. And we forget sometimes that kind of environment can generate really great results.
Yeah.
So one of them is we are a very open bunch of producers, and we want to read people's birthdays because that's awesome that he's gotten older. I don't like to celebrate mine, but keep doing it while you're young. But it also brings up other really cool opportunities. So I'll give you an example. On the Instance, we attract, like I say, a lot of different listeners who play World of Warcraft. As it turns out, that is not a game for just shut-in nerds like me, right? That's for lots of people. And my daughter's laughing at me. I don't know why. Anyway, so one thing that keeps cropping up on that show is we get crazy connections with people we never thought we'd run into. So one day we get an email out of the blue from former Red Sox pitcher and future Hall of Famer Curt Schilling. And Curt Schilling sends an email saying, I just want you guys to know I think you're awesome. I love your show. I listen to it every week. I'm like, this isn't really Curt Schilling. Like Bloody Sock Curt Schilling, like World Series winner for whatever year it was for Boston,
right?
And they hadn't won for like eons,
right?
Like it's a big deal. And at first we didn't believe it. Like anyone can say I'm Curt Schilling, you're Curt Schilling, right?
Right.
But and I'm not even a huge baseball fan, which I think is part of the reason he likes me. But that led to us being able to have him on the show, and that led to us. He's really good friends with. My brain just went dead.
Todd McFarlane.
Todd McFarlane. The creator of Spawn. He used to work on Spider-Man at Marvel. You guys know Todd McFarlane. And he bought, he's the one that auctioned, or bought that ball, McGuire's ball for $2.9 million.
Ball. Right,
yeah, the silent auction guy.
Yep.
Anyway, that opened an opportunity for me to get to interview Todd McFarlane, one of my heroes, on 2 of my podcasts. It never would have happened without this whole thing. That led to other stuff, which led to other stuff. And the opportunities just keep coming. But more importantly, it's the community who rises up. So right now we have a theme song on our show, which I'm really proud of and really like, on the Instance, that was created by a listener. We have really talented musicians who listen to the show. I don't have to do any of that stuff. They just say, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, oh my gosh, what do you mean what I think about it? Can I use it, you know? And this happens all the time. We get content for our morning show like this. The community is part of the project. And that is what I wanted to get to here. That is the bottom line of this, which is it isn't about what I'm producing, what Brian's producing, what Tom Merritt produces on our network, Veronica Belmont, some of you may know her, she does shows on our network. It's not about what they're producing. It's about what the community brings to the table. It's how much we include them and they include us. It feels like a group effort on the scale of hundreds of thousands of people. And therefore, I believe that the content's stronger, then we're actually truly taking advantage of the medium. So we're not just, podcasting. Yeah, stay away from me. I'm just going to make stuff. It's, no, let's all get in on this together. Let's be a part of something bigger and something awesome. And that, for me, has been key to all of this working out.
Yeah. Chinese demon over there.
Chinese demon, ladies and gentlemen. Is that what that is?
Or a
Pokemon.
Demon. That's a Pokemon.
It's a long story. If you listen to the morning stream, you'd get it. But anyway.
Japanese.
What else you got?
Well, okay. Something you said there. I'm going off. I have notes, people, but I'm going off of them for a second here.
If I can direct your attention to the game in the day area. Oh, that's not us.
No.
Continue to be here for this part. All right, go for it.
Okay, so I'm going off script here, and I'm going to ask you. You're not the only podcaster who's kind of turned what they do into a network, into an empire like this, like you have. However, I'd say you're the one of all the ones I've seen who's been able to turn it into a community and turn it into this group like you have. What is it about your delivery and your method of getting interacting with your listeners that makes Frogpants more of a community than, let's say, the Twit network, than, let's say, what Leo Laporte does? How do you...
Right. And I should say right off the top, I love Leo. I do a show on the Twit network.
Yes.
Forecast on Mondays. Tune in, twitlive.tv. And we're all friends, and everyone loves each other back and forth. But yeah, it's a difference between single point of broadcast, where it's single point out to everybody, everyone consume it. You can't get entirely away from that.
Yeah.
But for me, the difference is it's point to point to point to point. It's me to you to you to you. It's me to you guys personally, but it's also to 50 people I haven't met yet. But if I could, it would be personal too. And we're always going to read your emails, and we're always going to play your calls, and we're always going to be interested in what you are saying. And it has this natural ability, because here's the other thing you got to watch out for if you're creating internet or content on the internet, is the trolls can get brutal, man. They're the worst. The best repellent for trolls is that we're not trolly back.
Right.
So what happens is good people come, and the trolls come and go, this is no fun, and the trolls leave. So it has that nice double effect. And again, I didn't plan that. I don't know. I didn't know that was going to be a nice side effect of it. But as it turns out, we just don't have any jerks for the most part. Like, we have our occasional thing, but I have officers in the guild to deal with that. I don't have to deal with that. I'm like the Queen of England in this guild. Let me tell you how this works. I've told this on the show before, but I founded it with my co-host at the time, Randy Jordan, and he and I started the guild, and somebody said, well, who's going to be master? And I said, Randy, you do it, because I don't want to. It's a lot of work I don't have time for, so he decided to take that on. We very quickly hired a bunch of people from that. That Borg is awesome, by the way. Sorry, that Borg is rad.
Nice.
Resistance truly is futile today. No, that's
Prepared
great, dude.
to be photographed.
Yeah, prepare to be photographed. Sorry. I couldn't help it. He's got a stroller and everything.
That's the best part.
That is fantastic. All right, poor kid. Anyway. Seriously, like the first time we put him in the thing. Yeah. Now, don't worry. This is Daddy's just Daddy. I'm going to...
I think that's awesome.
I wonder if the kid's name is Lacutus.
That's the cutest kid I've ever seen.
Anyway. But that was pretty good. Yeah. So, I don't know where I was at. Oh, yeah. So when we started the guild and we got all these great officers to do the hard work for us, it's self-maintaining. I don't have to worry about it. And how I'm the Queen of England is, England doesn't really need their queen.
Right.
It's all just tradition.
Right.
So it's like, oh, the queen, but she has no power. The Prime Minister has all the power, so I just come in, throw pedals around, wave at everybody, and leave, and raid with my little team, and I don't have to worry about it.
But having the ability to appoint those leaders. And,
And they willingly want to.
Right,
they do it without
right.
money. They want to be a part of this, and I want them to be a part of it. And it's not me sitting back going, I got more people into my little plan here. It doesn't work like that. It's really awesome when someone will spring up kind of out of nowhere and suddenly go, here's the talent I have, and here's what I can bring to the table.
And it's not because they want to promote themselves. It's more because they know that their addition adds to the whole thing. You know, it's that they're adding this extra layer on top of it. Scott Fletcher, a perfect example of that.
Yep.
You know,
Scott Fletcher, I don't know if anyone knows who he is, but he is an incredibly talented voice
that
performer.
Group right there,
this
I know,
group
knows
knows. Some of them
Fletcher
know.
is right there.
Scott Fletcher is a guy who I met a long time ago, early days of podcasting. I heard his voice on something, wrote him and said, hey, you sound great. What do you charge for like bumpers? You know, do a little bumper for me. He wrote back, said some measly number, like $7 a bumper. And I thought, wow, he's too cheap because he's really good.
Yeah.
And he got curious about what show I was talking about, listened to it, and then just started sending me free stuff, like just one-liners, whatever. It has resulted in a 6-year relationship that has literally, I always say he's the frosting on my cake, because my cake is all right, but his frosting is real good. And he introduces a lot of the shows. He's the voice of a lot of things we do on the shows. On Film Sack, he reads the entire film summary for us, which is always filled with awesome and hilarity. He's got the silkiest, like, movie phone guy voice you've ever heard. I wouldn't have met him in any other walk of life. And this has been a collaborative relationship that has built a real friend. I'll be at his funeral, or he'll be at mine. I mean, that's a ways off, we hope.
We're going to podcast it. As
yeah,
a
podcaster funeral. You gonna tape it?
We're going to live stream it, yeah.
But yeah, those kind of people, that's how I met you, Brian Ibbott.
Yeah.
And that friendship has culminated into be something special. He came all the way from Colorado for this. I think he deserves a hand.
Thank you. Oh, look at that. Oh, you guys.
All the way. It's like a state over.
They
but
get a free T-shirt. Look under your chairs. I'm kidding. You get some gum. And you get
everyone
some gum.
gets some gum. But I wouldn't have had that opportunity. Our morning show wouldn't be a big hit without the chemistry we've got. And again, it's about instincts. It's about going with your gut. It's about trying things that seem a little scary on the surface and not being afraid of what other people tell you.
Excellent.
If that answers your question.
That answers. Okay. Yeah, actually, that answered all of them.
That is all of them?
I feel like we should put a different cartoon up here.
That cartoon is really depressing. He's going to flip it back. Go find the one with Wile E. Coyote with the portal gun. The reason I mention that is if you're lucky enough, I have a kill the internet. No, I like having a 404 up here while we talk. That's great.
I don't know if I can get back. There's no other button.
Thank you, Chrome. But I've got some prints that we'll have back there if you're interested. They're cheap. They're $10 a piece. But I got a lot of giveaway stuff too. We're giving away free mouse mats, some rings for your keys. Key rings is what they're called. What else?
We'll sign them too. I'll sign them as Veronica Belmont if you.
Yeah, if you want Veronica Belmont to sign your stuff.
I can spell Felicia Day.
None's the wiser, right? Right. I would have never gotten to interview Felicia Day without the instance. We've had her on twice.
Yeah.
And she's like a big shot, right?
She hugged me at one of the cons.
So he got hugged at a con. We're done. We can check out now. We've accomplished all we want to. I would say this. Obviously, at least most of you are probably sitting here because you have some interest in doing more online, and I have nothing but encouragement for people who want to do that. PC Laptops guy right there on TV. Hey man, I see him every movie I go to. He's a local celebrity, you know. Didn't seem to like me pointing him out much. Anyway. Not so jolly in person, are you? Anyway.
1-star reviews from PC Laptops.
But some of you are here and you're in content creation. You're trying to get your feet wet. You're trying to figure out where your audience is, whatever that may be. I can just say this: the two, maybe three most important things are the one thing I keep talking about, which is go with your gut, go with your instincts, trust your inner self, trust your inner voice. I sound like Steve Jobs at the commencement speech, but it's really true.
It's true. Yeah.
In fact, if you really want to do yourselves a favor, watch Steve Jobs' commencement speech at Stanford from 2005. It's all over YouTube. If you haven't seen it before, that'll inspire you to do some stuff. But I'm a big believer in that. Number 2 is consistency. So if you start a webcomic, do a bunch of them first and decide if you want to keep going. Don't put 2 or 3 on the internet, tell your friends, and then give up. Be serious about committing to it and holding to it. And that's not to say that I haven't dumped some projects, because I have. Some of the spaghetti didn't stick, right? So you have to let that slide down the wall in a disgusting mess and let it rot. But in the case of, if you're doing comics, be consistent. Always have it when you say you're going to have it, even though I'm about a week late on mine. And with podcasting, consistently do the stuff. And don't go, all right, my first episode's out on Friday, I'm going to be selling T-shirts by Monday.
Right.
Doesn't happen, ever, to anyone. It is absolutely, you'll be so disappointed if that is what your plan is. And I've had people say, hey, I'm totally thinking about starting a podcast. What's it about? This. Oh, that sounds great. Good luck. Well, I want to sell T-shirts. How do you have yours set up? Like, well, 8 years from now, go ahead and set that up. Literally, I didn't do that for 8 years. So I'm doing it full time now. I feel very fortunate that most of my sponsors for shows and the websites have come to me. I've gone to nobody. They come to us. If you're fortunate enough to get in a position where that's happening, you have a whole new set of problems, which is I really should be doing more to manage that better or go out and get more, you know. So there's always going to be a learning curve. I'm still on that learning curve. It doesn't matter where you start on it, though. Be consistent. Go with your gut. Have passion for it. Surround yourself with A+ really smart people and others like him, and you can't lose. I don't have any bad things to say about anyone who I've worked with. Even on shows where there may have been a little heat or something between us, it was always positive heat. It always produced better content. And you know who you like. And if you're going to work with somebody, find people you really like and find people who are smart and can help you look better. And I think that's my 3-tiered approach. I made it up right here. I don't say it all the time.
No, I'd actually piggyback one other item on there,
What's that?
which is communicate with your audience. So if you do get an email from somebody who's discovered your blog, discovered your YouTube channel, and has advice about it, or has a suggestion, or even just has praise, write back to them and say thank you, or let them know, yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea, or say, you know, I thought about that and I, you know, tried this and it didn't work. What else can you suggest? If you hole yourself up and try to be the empire, then that's what you're going to turn into, is the empire. And we saw what happened with, you know, their Death Star. Empire didn't work out so well.
Nobody likes Hitler, right? Nobody likes Hitler. So you can't be that guy.
Right.
You have to be, who would I be then? Probably a French guy. Because they're always letting everybody do everything. I don't know. Who? Colin? Oh, Stalin.
Are you telling us that we're Stalin up here?
I'm like, Colin, that famous leader, Colin, that guy. Colin the Great.
Do it for Colin.
Right, that's a good point, and I agree with that 100%. The minute you start acting like you're better, if I get 300,000 listeners, and the minute I start letting that say, wow, look at me, I'm in huge trouble.
Right.
I don't want to be there, I don't want to get there. I would also say a very supportive, awesome family is super key. I can't do this without, I have a fourth, but she's busy, she's in high school, what are you going to do? But my wife and Carter, my daughter, and my son Nick are all here, the town crier, if you listen to the instance. Without their help and support, none of this happens. I don't have free T-shirts today without them.
Yeah.
So,
and speaking of which, so
all right,
as many good questions as I could put
on
on here, we got 20 minutes until they're going to kick us off.
All right, because they got, you
and
know,
we got to change into our
contest.
cosplay stuff.
Yeah, the cosplay people are going to be lining up. What are we going to be? Who are we?
Well, like I took my board costume.
Oh.
And my stroller and my baby.
And your baby.
All right. So let's go ahead and take some Q&A stuff. Kim,
you're going to run around?
I'll run around. You want me to run around, or do you want?
Oh, look, she got a hand up already.
All right, I'll run around with this.
He's gonna go all Donahue. Ask your parents.
People.
If you don't know who Donahue is, I barely know who Donahue is. So.
Ask my parents. Yes,
just say your name and what's your question?
My name's Sharan. I'm just wondering how.
Closer. Sorry.
I'll take it. Thanks. I'm just wondering how I'm starting my own content now, but my problem is I want to keep my personal stuff separate from what I want to do professionally stuff. But I want to make my professional stuff look professional, but without getting my real name completely out there. I have a very odd name, Shran.
Sure.
If you Google it, you're going to see everything.
Right.
So how can I make a username and stuff
Right.
that looks professional, but it can be taken seriously?
Okay.
It's my question.
That's a great question. My name is Scott Johnson, and there are billions of me. So I don't really have this problem. There's so many Scott Johnsons, it's almost painful. But if you search Google for Scott Johnson, you don't have to do it now. I come up first. Now, that's not a brag. I don't actually like that much because, again, I got a family. It's the crazy internet. I'm waiting for some stalker troll to come to the house, right? So, and that's kind of happened almost in a way once. That's a long story. But it's a concern for sure. I kind of made a decision that I would just sort of let it all hang out. It was a hard decision because I knew that I would be, basically my personal life would be very public. But only as public as I'm willing to let it be, and also only as public as the people listening appreciate. In other words, it's more of an inclusive public. It's not just, here I am, take pictures of me. It's, hey, I'm one of you. I have this stuff, let's do stuff. And my experience has been that my fears were unfounded. I'm not saying it's for everybody. I think some people can do really well. You know, if you've heard, many StarCraft players in here have heard of Day 9. He's just now starting to be more public for his real name than he was for his fake name, which is Day 9. And he's doing great work in the StarCraft community. It's incredible. And he did it in less than a year. I mean, it's amazing how he's raised up. He's a great example of the stuff I'm talking about. But once you do get there, you've kind of forfeited that. The beauty of podcasting and independent media like this is that we're still in a time where you can be relatively unknown even if you're well known in that world. So I can show up here and most of you have no idea who I am, and it's great. I can go to a mall, nobody cares. You can mention big names at a mall. You can say Penny Arcade. You can say Felicia Day. Most people, no idea, still. And we like that because now I don't have to Brad Pitt every day. Not that I'm anything like Brad Pitt, but you know what I mean? Like, they can't go to a public bathroom without having somebody ask them to sign something personal. That sounds wrong. I didn't mean it that way. Anyway, I think there are dangers in it, but I also think that if you're really serious about it, I think getting it out there does make it a more personal web, and I actually think that's good for us in the long haul. People will argue with me on that, but I like it.
Cool. Well, let's get Sharan a T-shirt. Oh, I'm sorry.
Facebook, yes. Twitter, nah. Twitter's all about, blah, look what I said, and then, yeah, Facebook's good. Yeah. Who else you got?
Well, let's get Sharan a T-shirt. Thank you for...
she got a T-shirt, thank you.
Cool. And we have...
Preston. Hi.
Preston?
Weren't you wave? Oh, that was...
Oh, he's just checking out names.
Tristan has a pain in his heart. What can you do for him?
Preston, put your hands on the TV.
You had a question.
Apparently I look like Preston.
Oh, I got confused.
Hi, I'm Keith. I have to mention I do the Net Picks podcast. It's GEEX.
The next big podcast?
The Net Picks.
Oh, Net Picks. I hope it's also the next big podcast.
I probably wouldn't have made it if I'd have known about Film Sack.
Oh, okay.
I'm a longtime listener of The Instance. I love that show. I remember the first time you mentioned being from Utah, I kind of freaked out a little bit. I just geeked out pretty bad. I want to thank you for representing Utah, and thank you for
I love Utah.
And everything. Thank
Big
you so
hand for
much.
Utah.
So.
I'm always doing it on the show, too.
I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure. What do you got?
So you make so much content. You know, I listen to the App Slappy and the morning stream and everything like that. And what do you do to do you have any special measures to kind of keep your content fresh and keep like into it, especially after a lot of time? Because I don't know if you grinded Nex Ramus for 6 months.
Oh, it's the worst.
What do you do after so long? How do you with especially making new content, how do you make sure your old content doesn't suffer?
Well, okay, that's a great question. For those who couldn't, I know that mic's a little hard to hear. It's just asking how to keep content fresh when you're producing so much. Oh, man, that's a hard question. I won't lie to you. There are days where I'll be like, oh, okay, I got to record. Okay, that happens. But 90% of the time, I can't wait to get in there and start doing it. And I think that's just the key. You got to love it. You have to absolutely love to do it. There are times I just don't want to draw a cartoon. When Steve Jobs died, I wasn't in the mood because he's had a big impact on me, but I did one anyway. And, it was the most downer thing on the internet that day. But it's it's always good for me to get it out, you know, to do the work and get it out. As far as keeping it fresh, it's one of the things I love about our morning show. The world keeps us fresh. We cover news, technology, controversial stuff, celebrity stuff, politics occasionally, sometimes gets us in trouble. But it's stuff that's always on a cycle. It's always changing. And how we react to it is what really keeps it fresh. You know, obviously we have a timing and a voice for this, so that helps. But for the most part, it's all about just loving it. In World of Warcraft, the reason that the instance works and why that show is so popular still to this day, I think, is it's way more than a show about a game. It's a show about a company and a culture and a kind of thinking and a group of people and a class of players, and it's much more than just heroics with your, you know, with your buddies. It's much more than just guild changes in, you know, on the website. It's not. It's those things are important, and we cover that. But it's more about what is the larger world around us. How can we react to that? And that's so big that you're never going to run out of content. FilmSack. If Netflix doesn't die, we'll never quit FilmSack, because there's so much crap on FilmSack or on Netflix. I mean, 80s horror movies alone. We're about to do Waxwork. Has anyone seen Waxwork? That movie's the worst thing ever made, and I can't wait to do it because we have so much fun. So it's all about that. Find the fun and then just sink into it, and you just forget. If you were tired or you woke up feeling like crap, give it 10 minutes and you're off. I felt like crap before I sat here today, and you guys make me feel better. So I'm doing fine.
Any more questions?
Any more questions? Got one back there, one over here, a couple over here.
Come back over to you guys.
I'll try to be faster with my answers. I want to give everyone a
down.
chance. Hold it close. Here you go.
Yeah. My name's Neil Bear, and I was just wondering, how do you find the time and organization to do all this stuff?
Wow. See, I was wondering if that would come. You know, I'm not entirely sure how I get everything done, but honestly, I think it's. I'm just really. That's not a good answer. I really want to do it. In fact, the only thing that holds me back from doing more content, because I've got some other ideas, is I don't have time. And I think right now what that tells me is I've got to figure out a way to expand the network to be more managed by me less and more people. So I'm heading toward that. But to do what I do now, I don't edit at all. So those of you who are spending a lot of time editing your shows up, my recommendation is figure out how not to do that anymore. Because that takes so much time. It takes so much time to tweak it. Oh, I don't like that pause there. I said too many times. And instead, make a concerted effort to do non-edited content. You'll be really happy because it takes so much less time. I just literally done, hit stop, export, post it, out. And I move on to the next piece of content. That being said, I'm really busy, and it's kind of crazy, and I'm also, I love my family, and I want to spend time with them as much as I can. So Nick's, you know, football game will always take precedence over me recording a show. But they have always given me a lot of leeway to be able to do what I need to do professionally. And keep in mind, I am now doing this full time. When people saw me jump out in 08 to start doing this full time, they probably noticed an uptick of about 5 new shows that happened. Well, it's because I suddenly had, you know, my whole day to work with. So it can be done. You can go overboard. I've been accused of that. Sometimes you need to take a week off. But if you've been really consistent and you love your listeners, they'll let you get away with it. So there's ways of doing it, but that's a great question. Thank you for that.
Cool. All right, these guys right here. You had your hand up first?
My name's Tim. What's the worst movie you have ever seen?
The worst movie I've ever seen. Okay, Waxwork comes pretty close, but I'm going to say, and certainly it's been on FilmSack. There's a movie on FilmSack called Renegade. It's a movie by Dolph.
Retrograde.
Yeah, Retrograde, sorry. Retrograde.
So bad we can't even remember
It's
the
so
name.
bad I don't remember the name. It's Dolph Lundgren in 2005. Nobody heard of this because it was a direct-to-video, and it is a festering pile of crap. I don't recommend it. It's real bad. I had a lot of fun with these guys talking about it, but it was our second or third film we covered. Third film, I think. And I just regret that 2 hours.
Probably at that point we were thinking, oh my God, are they all going to be like this?
Yeah, we were worried at that point. But in the end, we moved on and we're okay now. But that was a bad, bad movie. Yeah. Don't watch it.
Good, very good.
Not recommended. All right, who else we got?
Right.
Make sure he gets a T-shirt.
Assassin's Creed right here.
Wherever my wife went.
Oh, sorry. Hey, I'm Luke. I was wondering, how do you attract people to your podcast?
Oh, yeah, getting an audience. That's a great question. I'm probably a bad guy to answer this because I never did much in that way, work to do that. I seem to have preferred the long haul, which took forever to get. But like I mentioned, when you center on a niche that people are really into, like World of Warcraft, you'd be surprised how quickly people just find it. I'm eternally grateful for directory services like iTunes that gives people a way to discover content that they didn't know they wanted or they thought they didn't know how to find or whatever. So that's a big part of it. But you're right. You're in a sea of mediocrity, right? And now that, see, it used to be the narrow gateway and the one key holder, but now it's this giant gateway. Everybody can get in. And that's great. But it also means it's hard to know when the good stuff rises to the top or when it's good or when it isn't good. So you could, looking for the instance, you might go through 5, 6 other shows before you find us, and you may never find us. So we rely on a lot of word of mouth now. We rely a lot on the fact that we were one of the very first to do it. I mean, a lot of those things play into it. And then I already have a built-in audience. So when I said, hey, we're launching a morning show in January, the existing group went, that'd be great. We'll watch a morning show. And then they kind of shifted over. I want a free copy of Rage.
I do too. Yeah. No kidding.
Anyways, that makes sense. It's just sometimes it's just about doing it, and then just let it be what it's going to be. And sometimes that'll pick up steam. Sometimes it won't. But a consistency, always doing. Don't expect overnight success, and you'll be fine.
Oh, okay, cool.
Are we getting?
Okay.
I think we.
Good. Well, let me add on to that too, because being consistent not only in what you're producing but also in your show. Find a topic that you're passionate about. Do you have a podcast right now? Tell us what it is.
Cast of Excellence.
Cast of Excellence.
Cast of
I
Excellence.
like it.
And what is it? What's the topic, or what's the?
Video games and other nerdly items.
Video games and other nerdy items.
Which is good. So
you just described all the shows I like to listen to.
Exactly. So, and you've listened to other podcasts and you figured out what you don't like about the other ones that you're delivering, right? Just keep on doing that, because there's going to be people who listen for the same thing that you're listening for on those other shows who aren't hearing it. They're going to discover yours, and they're going to become an audience.
I should also mention I kind of have an unfair advantage when you're an illustrator and you have some talent in that way. You can do a lot of crossover stuff that you couldn't normally do. You can make your own album art. You can have websites where they find your art, but then learn about the podcast, and you kind of share that audience. And the podcast listeners find out that you do artwork, and they go that way. So I'll draw something for the WoW fans and put it on the store, and then they'll them about it, and they're like, oh, he does this other stuff too. So there's a lot of like back and forth, and I don't have to hire anybody to do that crap. So that helps. You know, if you find somebody, either a friend you're doing it with or whatever, who's got additional talents, never hurts. Never hurts to do that. Do we have time? What'd they say we had time for? Did they say?
He's going to check and see how much
10
time
minutes?
we've got.
We have 10 minutes.
Oh, cool.
To minimum
right.
safe distance.
Oh, yeah, let's not do
I
that
did that
anymore.
at Nerdtacular. Remember that? Yeah.
All right, I'm going to be doing a 6-episode podcast for a school project. So I just wondered if you have any advice for like planning phases out first before I start on it.
Okay, I love this.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this. So a 6-episode arc, right? That's all you're planning on? So I do another show with Mark the Terpster Turpin. Any fans here of the Terpster? I'll have to tell him. He'll love that. He's from Britain. He and I do a couple of shows together. He's one of the co-hosts on The Instance.
11 of them here. So
yeah,
tell
11
11.
fans. 11 fans. He and I do a show called Hypothetical Help. Some of you may have heard it. We give fake advice to real people. They'll call up with like serious marital problems, and we give them terrible advice. And it's a popular show, and we enjoy it. But we made that show very specifically as season-based. So we were like, a season is 12 episodes. When we're done, we'll have a brief hiatus, just like TV does, and then we'll bring it back, or maybe not. You know, we have the option to shut it down. I really like that format because we always have an out. Otherwise, people make hundreds of episodes. They may be burning out. They don't know what to do, so they just keep going. And I don't recommend that either. I retired ELR at the right time. It was on top and when I wanted to do it. People should be able to do that. And seasons and separate episodes in a chunk of episodes, like 6, is a great way to do that. And I know you're just doing it as a project, but I would recommend if you continue on, keep that in mind as a viable way of handling your content. And then that opens you up for maybe other stuff you want to do later. If you get tired of the content, it's a great way to mitigate that change and you still get to keep your audience. They still love you for what new thing you're going to do. So yeah, as far as advice about making it, if you've got 6 episodes to do, just plan it out the best you can. I improv everything, so I don't have notes other than outlines. I recommend getting good at that. Then it's not a chore, it's not hard. You don't feel awkward or you're out of things to say because the stuff you're saying isn't written somewhere, it's just coming out of your head. That probably annoys my wife to death, is my guess. I don't know, does it annoy you, dear? No? Okay. It would annoy me. Good question, thank you. Good luck with that.
So I've got a question about what goes into making your content for the next episode of your next podcast. What's the process? Where you start gathering content, grouping people together, scheduling, recording, publishing, and then finally putting it out.
So starting back before the show even happens, like right now, at a GEEX 2011 exclusive, I'm thinking about doing okay, mind you, because it's not done, it's not set in stone, but we're considering a Old Republic podcast to support Star Wars: The Old Republic. And I'm pretty excited about that game. I think it looks great. Now, time will tell if I can do the Instance and Old Republic at the same time. I don't know. And we're working that out. And when I say we, mostly me, the one thinking about it. But I'm going to have to think very hard about, all right, who do I want with me? What talents do they bring to the table? What expertise do they bring? So there's all that stuff, and that's the hardest part, honestly. But once you hit go and you're good, I draw album art, I submit my feed to iTunes, they accept it, I sit down in front of all my equipment, I call somebody on Skype, we crank up the music, we talk, we end, we post. It's really that simple. And it needs to be because I'm doing so much. If I was, some would say, why don't you just focus on one show and that's all you did? It's just not me. I got to have more.
And that's the case with a lot of podcasters. Once you do one, you feel like you've got to do.
You got to keep going.
Like
you've done the same thing. Brian does the same thing. And by the way, Brian Ibbott here. What episode are you on of Coverville?
809.
809 episodes of Coverville. One of the most consistent podcasts in the history of the medium. And he's about to, when he hits 1,000, we think we're going to coincide that with a big concert at Nerdtacular 2013.
Yes.
Yeah, like Jonathan Colton stuff.
William Shatner will play.
William Shatner. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it sounds, I'm making it sound easier than it is. But once you get into the routine, you're just whipping it out every day. It's not hard. Piece of cake. Are we good? Okay.
So I'm going to come back up here.
Rage, everybody. Free copy of Rage.
Ticket number 7316.
Yeah. All right. We'll wrap things up. I know they're going to get the cosplay folks out here. And
And
I don't know
we're
about
going to
you.
go back to that table.
Oh, yeah.
We've got mouse pads.
We're going to give away mouse pads.
Keychains.
I almost said onion rings. Keychains.
Onion rings.
No onion rings today.
Sausages.
I've got some prints. If you're interested, they're only $10. We can take credit cards right there. I'll sign them. They include some of the stuff that I'm more known for. I just bought a handful of them. There's not a ton. But there's plenty of free stuff, too. We'll give away the rest of the T-shirts to the first bunch in line. And wasn't there something else we were giving? Oh, so I have some stickers. I got a bunch of crap.
Stickers, yeah.
So please feel free if you'd like. If not, that's cool, too. It looks like we got a few cosplayers ready to go. That guy is super holding still. Look at him. Check him out. Best duct tape use ever. Oh, fiberglass. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad always said you can fix anything with fiberglass.
That's a Halo thing, right?
Oh, is it Halo, dude? All right.
Is it Halo?
Oh, okay. Fallout. Got it. We're really on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to thank you guys for being here. It was fantastic having you as an audience, and I hope you guys enjoyed what we had to say. I hope it helped some of you who are interested in some of that content creation stuff. Thank you, Brian Ibbott.
Thank you, Scott Johnson.
And enjoy the rest of GEEX. And thanks, GEEX, guys. Thank you, LeGrand and everybody. Thank you very much.